Hey, how's it going, everybody? Welcome, good morning, and glad to have you guys here. Um, do me a solid. Let me know if the stream is doing okay, if audios is fine, if there's any lag. Please let me know. Definitely do want to, basically just make sure that the stream is going okay for today. Um, got something I want to talk about regarding Android side loading and whatnot. So we're gonna just kind of talk about that today for today's topic. Um, this Tuesday morning. So yeah, Taco Tuesday, everybody. What's up? What's going on? As you're coming in, please say hi. If you're on the Instagram side, please say hello. Say what's up. If you're on the YouTube side, do the same. Of course, promoting merch that I do. If you are someone who's a big advocate for Google Pixels, or if you're from the days of Nexus, right, you can copy a Team Nexus, Team Pixel shirt below. There's also hoodies. There's also long sleeves. So go check it out. Scan the QR code down there at the very top left over here. There's a tip your creator. So if you guys want to send a tip, doesn't matter what it is. Can be something to buy, like a cup of coffee or whatever. It don't matter. Every little bit helps to maintain the channel and keep things rolling. So I would appreciate that. So let's kind of get those things out the way for right now. I'll pop them up at the end of the live stream in case, or if you didn't get a chance to scan the QR code for a shirt, just let me know and I'll pop it back up for everybody. But yeah, so very interesting steps going on with Android. Like, there's a lot going on with tech today, and how things is just changing in that that perspective and everything. It looks like that Google is buckling down on sideloading applications, and if you're not familiar with what that is, what it means is with Android, and for so many years with Android, we have had the ability to basically install apps that are not in the Google Play Store. And there are like a ton of reasons why. There's a giant gray area. We have to be open about all these things, because people sideload Android apps onto their Android phone for various different reasons. And no judgment. We're not going to be passing judgment to be as to why people are doing that. There are those that will load these apps onto their device for various reasons, different apps. I mean, one of the big ones I can name you guys is gaming apps. And there are people out there who just definitely they want to maybe use like a cracked version of an app, something that gives them unlimited power-ups or gives them unlimited boosts, those types of things. So we can't be oblivious to the fact that this is something that people do. I mean, there's other various reasons why people would install and sideload apps. It could be maybe like an app that is going to be first tested out on Google Pixel 10s, right, the latest Pixel device, and maybe it's not currently available for the older Pixels, like the Pixel 9a and previous. And so then what's going to happen is that people are going to take to reputable websites like APK Mirror and use that, like to download the APK file for the the app, and then install it on their Android device. So there are many reasons why they would do this, but one of the things that is currently going on that is just, it's like it has people kind of shook to the Android core, has people wondering like why are they doing this, and the ultimate question is this something is this becoming something like Apple, like iOS, right? iOS is very restrictive, we know this. Yeah, we know this to be very true. We know that with iPhones, you can't sideload applications onto iPhone. Everything has to go through the Apple App Store. And so the reason that I'm really kind of speaking to this is because that's been one of the major, I guess you could say, one of the major arguments that has been around for the longest time. which people would say, like, with iPhones, people would say, oh yeah, there's no viruses, there's no malware, because everything is done through the Apple App Store, right? I think mod apps are the biggest reason for this. Yes, you're absolutely right. Modded apps is going to be the very biggest reason why they're doing this. I'm going to get into that here in just a little bit. Just kind of like an introductory for people to understand like what's going on, what sideloading is, and why this has been a thing. But I mean, yeah, Days One is right. The whole point of all this is based upon malware. It's based upon that argument state. Apple fans will always come at Android people and be like, I choose iOS because it has no viruses, and Android is just full of viruses. And you know what? That I've always say to people that would ask me that and be like, no, Android is not full of viruses. And I think it comes down to perspectives. To them, they think that they buy an Android device, and then as soon as they start installing Facebook and Instagram and X and all these other apps, and it's like, oh yeah, these things are going to be buggy with viruses and more viruses, and that's not the case. What most people don't understand is that when it comes to Android devices having viruses, it's at the user, right? The person who's at fault for it is the user, the end user. When you are sideloading apps, you are taking risks at installing apps that may have malware attached to it, viruses attached to it. I mean, we can go deep into how these apps, how there's buried within the code, there's buried malware that you're installing onto your device. There's even websites that say, yeah, like they have like the latest version of Facebook with the new feature that Facebook is offering, and you want that feature and it hasn't come to you in a software update from the Play Store, so you go and you download this APK file, you install it on your phone, and you don't realize that it's like these apps could mirror the actual app in itself. And what you don't know is that it could have spyware. It could be reading your logins. It could be logging that that password. Even if you use like a password keeper, like a password manager, and all you have to do is one click tap to fill in your credentials to sign in, and that thing could actually be like watching what your password manager is, or even get access to your password manager. I mean, there was an app that people installed on their phones. I remember this. This was about like 4 or 5 years ago. And what it would do is it would mask itself. It would continuously change itself and mask and hide behind other apps on your phone. This is how sophisticated these things are. And what it was actually doing was it was logging banking information. It was snatching banking information, and it was so uniquely built, right? Like the type of attack was like a drill attack. But what it would do was it would drill through apps and systems without leaving a trace. So using one of those antivirus softwares, run through your phone and everything like that, and it couldn't find it because it left no trail behind for where it went and where it was going. And then natively on your display, it would mask itself as an app that you would normally have installed on your phone. It was dang near hard to catch once you installed it. And these things are always attached. And of course, one of the most obvious places that these things would be attached would be like if you wanted to cheat in Angry Birds, right? Maybe you wanted unlimited birds to use, and so there was a mod on Angry Birds 2 that the mod effect was that you would have unlimited access to each of the specific birds, so you can basically cheat your way through a level, right? Or Candy Crush, that was like a very big popular one that people would install on their device. Candy Crush allowing them to literally use like unlimited lollipop smash, or just whatever the case may be. Swamp Attack gave you like unlimited money to buy all the weaponry, so you can kill like the beavers, the aliens, and you can use like the Molotov bomb, you can use the the nuclear bomb on a level unlimited times, right? People would do that. Racing games, they would have mod hacks to give you unlimited money, so you can buy the car that you want in the racing game and modify that car to its peak performance, and then just blow through all the just all that racing and such. So That's one demonstration of how people install or happen to accidentally install malware on their device. Another way, you know, another form or reason, just could be like getting like the latest features from other apps. So the reason why I'm explaining all this to you guys, right? Got to hashtag ADHD. Sometimes I run away with my thoughts. Is that Android's trying to buckle down on this? Android is they're not getting rid of side loading. So let's be clear on that. Side loading apps onto an Android device is not going away. It's just not. It's not happening. But what is happening is that Google wants a bit more control of what apps are installed on your device. And by that I mean that they're not going to be like forcing everyone to go to the Google Play Store to get these apps installed. You'll still be able to sideload applications onto your Android device. It's just that the apps that are being sideloaded need to have verification by the developer, right? The developer must be named in order to get verification, in order for it to be installed on an Android device. Without verification, it's not going to be allowed to install. And if the app that is being sideloaded doesn't have an author's name attached behind it, then its ability to install is going to be revoked. And so this is what's happening, because there are other reasons why people do sideload apps. I think another YouTube creator that I follow, for tech videos for my enjoyment is Shane Craig, and he was talking about it in a video recently. And he posted a whole thing on his website, so you guys can check out his website and read what he posted about the Android sideloading thing. And one of the things that he was talking about was that there's an app that basically takes like a specific verified signed app, like YouTube, for example, is what he used. He said that with this one app, he was able to take the YouTube app, and what this other app would do is it would reconfigure the APK package in order to repackage the APK without needing to have advertisement in YouTube videos that you watched. And of course, it would repackage it as an APK. You would have to download it as an APK after it was done, and you would have to sideload it. So without developer name attached to it, without the verification that's needed in order to authenticate and approve the app being sideloaded, you wouldn't be able to install this modded YouTube app, right? Which is pretty cool. I mean, I never knew that this existed, probably because I wasn't looking for one or didn't need one for any reasons why I never found it. But it's still pretty cool, right? It takes the actual app, like for instance, say Facebook, and whatever you want to change. If you want to block the Facebook feed from having so many advertisements on it, then this app would take the original Facebook APK, rip it, shred some of the coding that allows the ads to be placed on there, then repackage it as an APK, and then you would download it, and then you would install it on your phone as a sideload. I think it's pretty cool. And it blocks that. What it also blocks that some of us may actually be into is using emulators, gaming emulators, right? Because with this being in effect, Sega, Nintendo, SNK, like all these gaming these game developing companies could literally go to Google and just tell them like they want these emulators blocked because they don't want people playing these games, because you can still download ROMs. And the truth of the matter is that downloading these ROMs it's not legal. You can't do that, So when you download these ROMs, like these old PlayStation 1 games, PS2 or PSP games, N64 games, you get the point. You download these ROM files, and there's these emulators that can play them, and yeah. The whole ordeal with that it could be blocked is an issue. I mean, yeah, custom ROMs is definitely going to be a rescue for a lot of us who are tech savvy. But then there's like thousands of people who are not tech savvy or just don't have the confidence to want to install a custom ROM on their Android device. Even though, like, maybe like say to you and I, it seems easy peasy, right? It's just literally like copy paste ADB and fast boot commands in order to install a ROM. Right, and most of them are like that. Like, it's not like back in the day. Like, remember back in the day, like, all you really had to do was just like install like a TWRP custom recovery. And once you had that on there, you just download the ROM zip file and you flash it through that recovery. But most things today just requires you to access basically ADB and then fastboot to install the ROM. And then, of course, from there, well, you wouldn't install the ROM with fastboot. You would be installing the custom recovery. And then from the recovery, you would ADB sideload the ROM. And yeah, I mean, that could potentially be involved, right? Because some of the times, they would have these ROM zip files unsigned, unverified. And yeah, we'll have to see. But I mean, if custom ROMs aren't threatened by all this and everything is cool, then yeah, installing a custom ROM would be your best bet. But there are people out there who are just not familiar or just not confident enough to install those things. And then I already can see what can happen from that, which would be that, there would be people out there creating business on installing custom ROMs for people. I mean, there kind of already is. Like, in my area, there is a guy locally here. That's all I'm going to say is where I live at, the city that I live in. There is a guy locally here who he installs ROMs like Graphene OS for people who want to de-Google their pixels. And it's like, for Graphene OS installation, it's like $65. And the $65 of his service, what it offers is him, doing a diagnostic check on your phone to making sure that everything is functional, installing the ROM properly, and also basically you can return to him for software updates. So like, say like some of like the custom ROMs that I've used, like what's that other one? I remember the name of it. But anyways, there's like a custom ROM that I use that it doesn't utilize the system update like regular Android does. So you would actually have to go to the site. You would actually have to download the updated zip file. And then you would have to go through the same process of reconnecting your phone and flashing it through ADB sideload. So yeah, his services offers that. Like you can come to him for software updates, but I think it's like, the only problem I run into with custom ROMs is the device no longer certified, which yeah. So it's a sacrifice, right? Because I mean, yeah, Evolution X, that's the ROM. Evolution X, some of the unofficial Evolution X ROMs for specific Pixel phones and Samsung phones and stuff. Some of them you can't update through the system update settings. Official versions, official builds for specific devices, they will come with the ability to just go into settings, go to system update, and you can update to the next version of Evolution X. And so, yeah, the sacrifice of installing a custom ROM though is exactly what Days One said. Like you will break RCS messaging. Now, to some people, they may not care because today we have so many different messaging platforms, right? Like you have Instagram messages and Facebook messages, which is so weird that they try to intertwine the two, but also keep them separate. You got to keep them separated. And then you got, Telegram and WhatsApp, and you got all these different, chat platforms. So to some people, they may not care. To some people that actually like use RCS, like myself, my kids, my wife, we use RCS. So yeah, that would definitely be a hindrance for us. Yes, there are times where developers can find a way to patch that where RCS will continue to work, but it's like it's fighting against the inevitable when it comes to that, right? Because you can get like the patch and install it on your device to fix RCS with a custom ROM, and it'll run for maybe like 1 or 2 months, but then Google does something with like Google Play Security. There's an update to that, and that will re-break the RCS connection, and then you're gonna have to like wait for them to come up with a patch that you would install, and it's just headaches of always having to keep doing that. Because RCS goes a little bit deeper than what people think. I don't know if anyone really knows this, but like for instance, like my daughter has Metro by T-Mobile, and if she's late on her bill for her phone, one of the early signs that they're about to interrupt her services for non-payment is they disconnect RCS connection. So like she's default dropped back down to SMS text messaging. And then, like, a couple of hours later, if she doesn't pay it, then they suspend the line of service. So, like, usually when RCS breaks for her, that's like if she forgot to pay her bill or if she's busy with high school and everything, then she will go in, and if she needs to, till payday, she will get like a 72-hour extension from Metro. And then RCS will turn back on. So it's kind of crazy, right? With me with Google Fi, that's happened to me. With Google Fi, I didn't know that my debit card was locked, so they were like constantly charging me, and they never took their payment. And so like one day I got up and like they were gonna suspend my service, and RCS was turned off. And I was like, why am I texting my wife and it's not letting me do RCS? And then my wife messaged me on Google Chat, and she's just like, hey, RCS chat's not working for me either. And then I looked, and it was like, oh yeah, to avoid interrupted services, please pay your bill now. And I'm like, crap. Forgot to unlock the debit card, and I unlocked it. Pay now, boom, everything was fixed. As soon as I made that payment, and that little the little notification that I was about to be suspended went away, then like doing like a reboot real quick, and then all of a sudden an authentication came from Google, and RCS was back on. So CyanogenMod, I mean, those are those are the days. CyanogenMod, I mean. I remember when these developers worked together, like Pac-Man ROM, right? Which to some people they just looked at it like Pac-Man ROM, as in it being like paying homage to Pac-Man. But you have to look at the first three letters in the Pac-Man ROM, PAC, which stood for Paranoid Android AOKP CyanogenMod, PAC. Because they had worked together on that project to build the Pac-Man ROM. I remember way back in the day, what's his name? Noah from Phone Dog. After he left Phone Dog and he started doing his own videos on YouTube before focusing on his music career, he installed I forgot what phone it was, but the Pac-Man ROM he installed was based on 4.2.2. I think that was Ice Cream Sandwich. It was so cool to see, like him just kind of go through the custom ROM and give his thoughts and stuff on it, because he was a respected YouTuber back in the day in the year 2009, 2010 that I followed and respected. It ultimately was one of the people that got me into wanting to start a YouTube channel and talk about tech. So if I had to pay homage to the guys who inspired me to get on here and do this, it would be Noah from PhoneDog.com. It would be Chris Perillo and Chris Chavez and what's his face? Max Lee from High on Android. I would have to give it up to them. They're the reasons why I started a YouTube channel, started talking about mobile tech, the thing that I was interested in. So yeah. But yeah, custom ROMs could be a way to be a workaround, so that way that you have the free ability to install side-loaded ROMs. So, but again, like Days One said, RCS definitely is going to be something that could be broken by installing a custom ROM. So why all of a sudden is Android doing this? I mean, that's the other big question that people are asking. Why are they starting to do this? I think really it has to do with they're trying to do damage control cleanup, right? Google is getting market share with their Google Pixel phones. They're starting to see an interest from the non-techies and the non-nerds. They're starting to see a growth pattern here, and what they want to do, in my opinion, what I think that they're doing is that they're trying to get rid of the stigma that Android is buggy and virus infested. So if they kind of start to close that loop, they feel like that they'll have a better footing and a better control to be able to actually manage any type of malware getting on any user who uses Android, to prevent them from getting this on their phone. But then what happens afterwards? Well, we kind of lose a little bit of freedom here, because these things have to be signed, verified. Not only they have to be signed and verified now to be basically acceptable to be side-loaded, right? Because we're not even talking Google Play Store. So let me just kind of I think I didn't make that clear, but they didn't they're not forcing everyone to download apps specifically from the Google Play Store. So sideloading is going to be allowed. Like if you created an application and maybe you don't want it hosted in the Google Play Store for download, maybe you want to use, that app as like a like a hook to reel people into your website. But your app is, it's authentic. It's not infested with, malware. You have no ill will intentions behind your app other than what your app is set for. Then, you know, um, you could drive traffic to your website. You can drive traffic for people to download it. Like you can make a YouTube video talking about your app, the service, what it does, what it's able to do, who's it for, and people might get interested in it. And they're like, "Oh, I'll look for it in the Play Store." And you can be like, "We're not hosted in the Play Store. Feel free to visit our website. Link is in the description." And when you go to our website, and you'll find a link to download the app. I mean, people have that, that business strategy method to guide people to their websites, because you go to that person's website and you're like looking for this app to download, and you see other services that they offer or other things that they have, and you start to get interested in it. And now you're like, you're doom poking is what I call it, where you're poking around their website, going to their, their about me, to figure out who and what they are, and you're looking through all the other services or all the other apps that they may be hosting and that they have. And then you're like installing. I mean, Chris Perillo today is heavily, interested in artificial intelligence, right? And he builds, right, vibe coding, Gemini Pro, and he's got a web app store. Now he can host it, on an app hosting platform if he wanted to, but he would rather host it on his website. And so, you would go to his arcade and you can see a plethora of different freaking, web apps, anything from like tools like specific type calculators to games. All these things are present on his website, right? So people do this. They do host apps that they build on their actual website as tools to drive traffic in. And since they're driving traffic into their website, obviously they're getting the views. If they've communicated with various different businesses to host advertisement on their webpage, well, this is another way that they would actually make revenue, right? They would have ads placed, and of course, if their payout for these advertisement deals is based upon viewership, the traffic that goes into this person's website, then you're driving traffic into your website. So they're on your webpage for more than 5 seconds, and boom, you're like paid like 39 cents per view. Now, just imagine if you had 1 million views on your website in 1 month. Do the math. So if you think about it, by large, people are going to be building apps and be hosting it on their own websites. And, in order for it to sideload onto your phone, obviously, it's going to need verified information in order for it to be approved for sideloading. But now people are in fear that it's going to be, it's going to be walled off, right? Like a wall garden is being built around Android now. And the damage control that that Google's really trying to fix, to try and alleviate people's opinions of Android being this virus infested platform. I mean, this is what I mean. This is why, like, when we have these conversations on social media, because we cannot forget, we may not think about it because they're not commenting, they're not joining in on the debates, they're not vocalizing, that they're watching what we do. But you do have to understand, companies like Google and Apple, Microsoft, they are watching. They are watching social media. That's what they have people for. They have, like how do you think you can contact a Google rep through the X platform, or through Facebook Messenger, right? They have people who their day-to-day job is to respond to DMs on these social platforms, and their job is to screen it. They look for specific hashtags, so that way they can filter out all the other crap that they're not interested in, right? Like Pixel would, when on social media, they would look through the hashtag of Pixel 10 currently right now, or Team Pixel, or Google Pixel, and it will give their feed posts that have to do with the pixel, and then they can see what people are saying and what they're talking about. So if you're like, you know, hashtag Android, hashtag Android OS, and then you're writing like a long post, or maybe you're on the X platform and you're writing like a 140 character post about how Android OS is so superly infested, and you know, I wouldn't recommend buying an Android phone. If you're buying Android, your bank account's going to get ripped off, you know, your photos are going to get stolen, and all these other things, because there's virus, there's malware, there's Trojans, there's this. When they're starting to say all this stuff, people who don't know any better are just automatically going to assume. Like here, example wise, from 2012 to 2015, one of the biggest things that was talked about when it came to smartphone viruses, it was always pointed that Android was super, like had so much viruses. It was a viral statement about Android and viruses. And how did that have an effect? Well, you know, I walked around ASU, Arizona State University. At the time, my wife worked over there. She worked in one of the shops. So I walked around ASU. There were people walking by. I'm asking them a question. And this is what I got in response. And at that time, I wish I could have made a video about it. That would have been such a sweet video. But, you know, I was too chicken shit to do it. Because I didn't want people to get mad at me for being on video or whatever. And, you know, these kids, man, they walk on campus so fast. They don't have time to really, you know, listen to like a legal standpoint spew of like, you know, hey, are you cool with being in my video type thing? But anyways, but I asked a bunch of people, which is like, you know, what are you using? Most people were using an iPhone. Why? And one of the biggest concerns was that they felt that Apple was so secure there was no viruses at all on their phone. Like they felt like their phone was squeaky clean. And then it was like, oh, okay. Well, if I told you that people that have Android devices that have a ton of viruses on there is because it is user error. It was somebody who installed sideloaded an app. So now you see where this conversation is going, right? So you got to know that Google looked at that and be like, okay, well, you know, if 90% of Android users that are affected by malware and viruses on their smartphones are getting it from sideloading apps, we have to regulate that. And that's what all this is. This is them regulating it to where, you know, people that use Android and sideload apps, it would protect them from installing malware. Because the everyday Joe and the everyday Jane does not know how to screen for viruses or malware on APK files to sideload onto their Android device. They don't know because it's not in the forefront of their mind. A basic everyday user of a smartphone, when they get a phone, they open it, they power it on, and they want it to work. Sign into Facebook, sign into Instagram, sign into YouTube, sign into TikTok, and that's all they care about. They're not like, okay, I'm going to sideload an app and let me see. Let me tear the APK open and see if I find any weirdly odd looking code, right? I mean, you know how much code you have to sift through? I mean, you could use AI today to probably sift through that code. You could probably have ChatGPT, or you could probably have Gemini Pro basically look through an APK file, tear it apart, look line by line through code, and then see if it finds any script that just seems odd or weird. And yes, you know, scripts, they don't have to be like, you know, 100,000 characters long. Do you guys remember that, what was it back then? I think it was like 2011. There was a script text code that you could text an iPhone user, and if they opened the message, it would instantly crash their iPhone, causing it to go into almost a boot loop of death. I remember my sister-in-law wanted to kick my ass because I saw this online. I copy-pasted it, I put it in a text message, and I sent it to her phone. And when she opened it, her phone started crashing. Every time her phone booted up, it would crash. It would keep doing it. And it was like, and me being stupid because I wanted to see this prank happen, I didn't actually look to see how to alleviate the problem. Eventually we figured it out. It was like maybe like 10 minutes of her iPhone 3GS was just crashing left and right. We eventually got it to stop doing that, and then we were able to remove the text message. But the character of that code, I think, was only 7 characters long. and in that sequence of those characters is what caused it to crash. So yeah, you could use AI. And that's probably one good thing about AI right there is you probably could use AI to just go through all the code. But then think about it, that's like an extra step that you got to do. Like how many people really want to unbox a phone, boot it on, sign into their, to their account, get their contacts uploaded in there, recover their cloud stored photos, and then, you know, they they want to install an app, so they're going to side load it, but then have all these checks done to the app before even approving the installation of it. Nobody wants to do that, right? So everyone's main point for app installations is always the respective stores, right? The Apple App Store or the Google Play Store, and that's where they're going to go. Of course, people that like to cheat on video games obviously aren't going to be able to do that anymore, because a lot of these cracked modded, get unlimited power-ups on Candy Crush Soda or whatever game they're playing today. Um, you're not going to be able to do it. And those people who were finding clever ways to bypass YouTube ads by using a APK modder that would mod scripts within the native YouTube APK file and rewrite the code to just basically not host any advertisements to be played on videos, you won't be able to do that anymore, because those would be unverified, unsigned, with no author attached to it. You won't be able to install it on your Android device. It is a sad case in that. And I do understand why they're doing it. I do understand that they're trying to tighten security around Android. Honestly, if you were to ask me, as we're coming close to the end here, if you were to ask me, I would literally tell you that I think that this is something that should be a feature that's turned on. A feature that's turned on. I think this is something that you should be able to implement on in settings, right? Because, like, for instance, for those people who know how to sideload Android apps, right? When you download the APK file, like say from the Chrome app, right? You're on Chrome browser, you look for an app, download it, and you're about to sideload it, right? One of the things that it does tell you, right, is it has a little pop-up that comes up on your screen, and it tells you that it's an app from an unknown source, and you have to toggle to approve the installation, right? And once you toggle that, then you notice that it is installing the app. You see the progression bar come up, and it starts zipping from left to right, showing you the percentage of installation. And then when it's done, right? It's installed on your phone. I think that that they should implement this type of security at the user's discretion, right? Because at this point right now, since people are starting to talk about this is starting to become a problem, for those that are, that sideload apps. Maybe you're an app developer yourself, and so you want to be able to sideload. Maybe you don't want to go through all the humbug of making sure that you are verifying and attaching, a author's name to the app in itself, so that way that they know who developed the app. Maybe you just want to do a quick install onto your Android device to test. You won't be able to do that. You would have to go through all the necessary steps to verify your app. And so this should be something I feel like that should be at a user discretion. Users should be able to turn this, to make it into a feature that is you can toggle, right? But again, of course, that would defeat the whole point of why Android is doing this, because they are really trying to tighten down and crack down. I mean, how many apps do you guys think that Google has to remove on a daily basis that has some form of malware virus attached to it? Like, they're not, I'm going to be honest with everybody, they're not perfect at catching everything. So if they're not perfect at catching everything, well then, things are going to slip through the cracks. Like how many times has there been notices sent out that there's an app that you may have installed on your phone that's been shown to have malware attached to it, uninstall it now. And then you're like, well, I downloaded it from the Play Store. How did it get there? Don't they have checks and balances? So it seems like they noticed that all these years of poking the bear about its lack of security has toggled them to really beef up security through all these different methods. And it's so strange, because it was that was the reason why people were upset and disliked, they disliked the whole, Android not being secure, and now that it's becoming secure, now they're being vocal about not liking this change. And it's like, it's one or the other, you know. So I always tell people, like, if you're hating on Android just because you don't like Android, because you feel like that you need to be loyal to Apple and that's your thing, you're the cause of this. Spreading all this, spewing all this thing about it's virusy, it's buggy, it's this, that, and the third. I mean, you've created this. For everyone else that believed in every little, statement, every little propaganda about Android, you created this. So, you can't be ultimately mad that they're doing this if this is what you wanted. You wanted them to be more secure. That was one of the things that people would always say, right? Android would be so much better if it was more security like Apple iPhone. Well, now they're kind of going in that direction. And it's just weird to me that people don't that this. And I say this, I watch what a lot of people say on social media. So I like to say that I got a pretty damn good memory, to that degree. So I remember some of you guys, I'm not going to say names, but I remember some of you guys that would poke at, Android not being very secure, now are being vocal about them not liking this whole thing that's going on with sideloading and the extra measures and steps of security that it's going to take for you to be able to host an app to be sideloaded on an Android device. Like, you asked for this. Now deal with it, type of thing. Hazelin says, I think if there would be a way to disable this, it would be ADB command, which most users wouldn't know how to do. Yeah. I've been loving iOS lately. Awesome. That's great. Me personally, I like that there's choices that don't exactly, mirror each other. Like, yes, there's going to be things that, that Android adopted from iOS. There's definitely things that iOS has adopted from Android. Okay. Like, that's the inevitable things feature wise. But closing off people's ability to sideload, I think there's a middle ground area where Android gets its availability to tightly, to tighten up security for Android devices. Because again, it's the craziest thing. Like, people would post, Android is full of viruses, and I would always read their stuff and I always be like, why are you guys misrepresenting this? Like, Android is not full of viruses. It is not. And I'll say it again, and anyone can argue with me about it. It is not full of viruses. You don't unbox a brand new Pixel 10 and it's got like 8 or 9 Dr. Mario viruses inside of it. That's not how this goes. The reason why Android is looked at as a software that has too many Trojans, too much malware, too much viruses, it is because of the user error. It's user error. It's people sideloading apps for non-reputable places that have no validity to them, and they're installing it because they want to cheat on a game. They want to bypass advertisements and all this other stuff that they're annoyed of, and so they install things without even checking. Okay. I'm sure that if I created a web page called, Shy Guy Stock, right? Shy Guys from Mario, little ghost face looking creatures. Anyways, let's say I hosted a website like that and put a little logo of a Shy Guy that's holding an Android APK logo in his hands. And then I say, yeah, I got, let's see, I built an AI app that bonds with your Fortnite that allows the AI to run you in a battle royale and will guarantee you victory, right? There's someone that's going to look at that and download it because they want to cheat. They want to get ahead. And it's like, I could have all kinds of things. I can have malware attached to that app that uses a drill style hack to drill into your banking apps and all that other stuff, and also have like a tracer eraser, right? It erases its path as it moves through your system files and everything like that. So it makes it very hard for antivirus software to find it. And I can build it to cloak itself as like a needed system file. And yeah. It would be the person installing it. It would be their fault that they got that virus that I created. let's call a spade a spade. That's the absolute truth. It's user error. Why Android has been full of viruses. It's the ones that install these things that sideloaded. I really never utilized the capabilities of what an Android can do. My father sideloaded an app and he almost got scammed. He's older than he's older and they almost took advantage of him. Yeah. See, that's the thing. It's like that's the reason why the Android is buckling down on sideloading, because that's the ultimate pinpoint when it comes to how does Androids get viruses and malware. It is from sideloading. It is very rare that it comes from an app that slipped through the cracks of the Google Play Store. For the most part, they're pretty good at screening apps that's on their platform that is available for download. Maybe every couple of years, I've seen maybe one app kind of get away with it that has been downloaded like a million times before Google is able to catch them. And that's something that they need to work on their end. I will hold Google accountable for that. A majority of the time, 90% of the time that people have viruses on their Android phone is because they installed something sideloaded. And that's why they're cracking down on sideloads. So, in short here, before I end the podcast, I just want to tell people, like, sideloading is not going anywhere. Okay, they're not killing it. You're going to be able to do sideloads. It's just that people who build apps for sideloading, whether they host it on their own website to drive traffic and business to their website, or they're just like they have like a repository full of like backdated versions, right? Or maybe modded versions like Gcam, which is basically the Pixel camera modded to be installed on a OnePlus or Samsung or whatever. Like a lot of these places are gonna have to have authentication and verification done on every APK file in order for Android to allow the sideloading and installation of it. Honestly, I just think that actually here, an idea just popped up in my head. You guys let me know if this sounds like a good idea. So I don't know if you guys know this, but like Google Pixels, there's a thing that like it's not the Pixel Rescue mode, but it's using the Android Flash tool, right? Which is website that has a Flash tool that can connect to your device through ADB, and it's done through the internet. Like you don't have to install and do any type of like software installation on your PC. Everything's done through this web page itself. So if Google was able to make a Flash tool, right? You could download the APK file onto your PC, right? Plug your phone in, connect to another Google software tool, like the Android Flash tool, that will allow sideloading. But this Flash tool, what it does is it actually reads through all the code of the APK. So it does a quick tear of the APK, breaking it down line by line, code by code, just to scan it for hidden code, for malware, for viruses, repackaging the APK if approved, and then allowing it to be sideloaded onto your Android device. Yes, of course, there's a little extra step there. One is that you're going to have to go to a web page to sideload an app. Two, you're going to have to connect your device to a PC. And I know not everybody has a computer, so that would be like one of the downsides to it. But it will still allow people the ability to just install apps. Of course, the ones that have to do with like emulators, like gaming emulators, like that, we're going to kind of be SOL on. So it's really like, picking the lesser of the two devils. Do we want Android sideloading to be the way that it's always been? And then those people who complained about, like, I switched to iPhone because Android was full of viruses, not admitting that they installed something they shouldn't have that caused that issue, and allow them to tear down the image of Android, preventing Android and Pixels from taking steps forward in the market share to grow? Or do we allow this to happen that could possibly change the fate of how things are secured for us, as well as how we use Android, even potentially what most people fear that could happen of Android locking down like iOS? Because then that would be detrimental, in my opinion. If they lock down like iOS, I'd be done with Android. Because then I know for a fact that at-home developers, the guys from Evolution X, the guys from Graphene OS, the guys from Lineage OS, like all these guys, they're not going to be able to do anything, because then, all the codes, all the scripts, everything for Android is going to be locked. It's not going to be shared. It's not going to be open source. Would I still buy Google Pixels? Absolutely. But I'm pretty sure someone out there is going to be smart enough to develop an entire software built not on Android. And as a matter of fact, too, like I think one of the things that I'm still frustrated with Android, if I can throw this in here before closing out, I don't understand why they're still using for their kernel. They're still using Linux. Like, why haven't they switched to their? So, if you guys don't know, Fuchsia OS, right, was supposed to be like 100 times faster because of the type of kernel, the kernel that they were using, right? The Zircon kernel proved to be faster than Linux. So why haven't we switched to that yet? I mean, I don't know. Like Pixels have the Tensor G5, the Tensor G5 built by TSMC, which is the manufacturers who build Intel processor chips and various other chips out there that people have looked at as respectable processor chips that are good. Um, yeah, TSMC builds them. They're the foundry that builds them for those companies, and so they are now building the Tensor processor. So we are moved away from the Samsung foundry. That's a good thing. So why can't Android now dip away from Linux? I mean, I know there's going to be a Linux fan out there who will probably hate me for saying that, but the type of kernel that's used in Android today, if you look at the type of kernel that's built for Fuchsia OS, which was supposed to be like the only device I know that got Fuchsia was the Google Home, the one with the display, before having the video camera on the display. That Google Home actually got Fuchsia installed on it. Fuchsia was supposed to be the cross OS platform. It was supposed to be able to run on Android smartphones, Chromebook laptops, Android tablets, smart refrigerators, smart washers, smart TVs. It was supposed to run on everything, and it was built to be fast, and it is. Last I checked on any progress of Project Fuchsia, and I believed it was 27% faster than Android OS. So why aren't we using it? There's a lot of questions that I have, but for the most part, I mean, tech has always excited me. I'm a nerd. I love discussing these things, and I hope you guys enjoyed today's conversations, thoughts, things that I said, and I appreciate you guys sharing your thoughts and opinions. Keep them coming in future podcasts as well as my videos. I welcome them. I would love to get you guys' feedback on some of the videos that I've posted, so you guys can check my back catalog. It's there at your disposal. If you're on the Instagram side, shout out to you guys for popping in. Don't be afraid to chat. I'm not an asshole, so I would not cut you down if you lack knowledge in a certain field. I would just love to get people's feedback and what they think about it. It could be the simplest thing. You can feel like that it's plain Jane, but to me it's valuable. So shout out to those on the gram side that are watching. I appreciate you guys. More podcasts will be in this format. So yeah, if you guys want to follow me on the gram outside of YouTube, maybe you don't like YouTube ads, you want to follow me on the gram, go for it. I'll put it into the description. But other than that, you guys take it easy. Love, peace, chicken grease. As always, aloha.